yes! Welcome into SportsBIT. Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy weekend preview edition. Celtics and the Raptors, big game breakdown. UCLA and Arizona Saturday on CBS. And we are on fire! We look to make it 8 in a row with the play of the day. Deep dive Oscars preview coming up Sunday. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books in a second. We didn't see the superstars go anywhere, Teddy. Butler and George stayed put. Not a lot of marquee players were moved.
No, I mean, let's talk about the two guys that didn't move first. Jimmy Butler, stays in Chicago. So we have to ask ourselves, the Bulls did make a deal, and they made a deal to bring in a point guard in Cameron Payne. We'll talk about that deal in just a minute. But they didn't trade their core. How do we view Chicago right now? Bet on? Bet against? Don't know.
I think it's a weird move by the Bulls to give up McDermott and Gibson to forget Cameron Payne.
Right, but then you keep Jimmy Butler.
But they are under 500.
Right, what would it be, the 7th seed if the playoffs started today? Yeah, so I'm not convinced that anything is so desperately wrong in Chicago that they had to make the deal. The same thing with Indiana. I mean, Indiana has that really nasty stretch, that miserable stretch right before the All-Star break. You have the situation with Paul George, obviously, where they don't know if they're going to get anything for him now if he leaves in free agency. But the Pacers, they didn't make a move either. They kept their key guy. That make Indiana bet on or bet against?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not that good. They're not that good to begin with. And I'll tell you what, Danny Ainge did the right thing. I know Boston, I wanted them to go all in and make a move. But when you're asking for Smart, Crowder, Bradley, and the Nets pick, which could be the number one pick in a draft, that's go F yourself right there.
Yeah, that's too much, obviously. Melo and Derrick Rose stay in New York. No big trades out of there. I mean, the biggest headlines on the trade deadline day, Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson and a 2018 second rounder from Chicago to OKC for Cameron Payne and Anthony Morrow and Joffrey Laverne. And Gibson has been his whole career with the Bulls. Quote, I felt like it could happen. I was like, they got to get something for me, because looking at how they lost Jakeem last year, they didn't get anything for Jakeem. They didn't get anything for Powell. So it was the only smart thing for them to do is to try to get something for me while I was still here, which is good for the organization, in my opinion, because you don't want to just let a free agent walk away without trying to get some pieces. So Taj Gibson gets it, but that's the marquee deal. That, and I guess Nerlens Noel going to Dallas for basically nothing. That was a weird trade by the 76ers.
I hated that trade. He's 22 years old. I know there's a logjam at that position, but just to get a pick and Philly going back to getting all these picks. Again, Brian Windhorst said this. When you buy the new car and drive it off the lot, it immediately goes down in value. So once you have all these picks, that's great. But once you take some of them, like the Celtics find out the hard way, Hunter cut, James Young want to get rid of them. I mean, I'd rather have Noel than have the pick. I don't get it. And it's a good move by Dallas.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, Dallas is the one that could make out like a bandit here. Because remember, Philly got a first rounder, but it's so protected. It's lottery protected, and it's likely to end up working out to be 2 second rounders for a guy. What did Noel go? 3 overall? Yeah, and for a guy who went third overall and was pretty good, had potential. So I'm with you. It's a baffling move for Philly. The Sixers are like, 3 players away from contending for something serious. Trading away their young talent doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
6th overall pick, although he was coming off a serious injury. So that was one. Okay, to the teams that made deals. Our play of the day, I wish they were all like that. Rockets Ice Cream, eat it up Rocky Road, 3.5. They blow out the Pelicans, who were sloppy. The Rockets, 20 of 51 from 3. We love the move. Lou Williams, what do you have, 27 off the bench?
Just cutting away. And this is one time, sometimes we do something on SportsBIT, and I think about it the next day, I'm like, that wasn't right. I wish we should go back and undo that. And one of the things that happened on SportsBIT, we had a knee-jerk reaction. Like, we knew that the Pelicans weren't going to be great. We said Sacramento's going to stink. Oh, my God, the Kings. What are they thinking? What are they doing? And from an organizational standpoint, that makes sense. But from a value standpoint, the betting angle on this is the opposite of mainstream thinking. New Orleans, a clear bet against until further notice. They were so sloppy on offense last night. Turnovers, they couldn't defend the three-point line, and that is going to continue to be a problem until they develop some chemistry. So Pelicans absolute bet against. But Sacramento now, so devalued, they offer bet on potential. They're being priced like they're the Brooklyn Nets or worse. And I don't think they're a team to fade right now. The market's already done that.
Yeah, Denver can't be 7 on the road. That line surprised me. And you get a big effort out of Sacramento. Was it the first game without Cousins? Bad beats. The Magic and Charlotte came out with heart and came out with fire, and they blew it late. They couldn't close.
Oh, both of them. And I don't know which one was worse. Well, I'll tell you which one was worse. I had Charlotte in my pocket. That was worse. It was a brutal bet. A brutal beat if you had the Hornets last night. But, magically 91-80, under 9 minutes to play. They played really well. And then what happens? It's crunch time. You got to get stops. You got to make shots. What happens? 32-12, Blazers close out. They just dominated that fourth quarter. Orlando covers for 3.5. They don't cover at the end. Portland with the win and cover. Tough beat if you had the Magic. And the Hornets, they led 85-67 with 1:15 left in the third. And then the Pistons had a 15-2 run to make it close. And then Charlie hit a couple of shots. You're like, okay, anything but overtime. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope goes nuts. He hits 3 threes in the last minute and a half, and boom, game goes to OT. Pistons 10-2 run to open overtime. Charlotte was cooked. And note, Drummond and Reggie Jackson were on the bench throughout that entire run, all through the fourth quarter, all through overtime. Ish Smith was running the point for Detroit. It worked a whole lot better than it would have with Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, 2 vicious beats there. Here's another bad beat. IUPUI. Fort Wayne Summit League if you had the under 164.5, you got hooked. 95 second half points, Teddy, and you got hooked.
If you're betting Summit League unders on a regular basis, you got heartburn every night, man. That's the truth of it. That has not been a good league for under bettors this season. But yeah, but 164.5, and they scored 95 in the second to get 165. That's tough, no question.
Bad bet Nebraska plus 6.5, bet down to 4. Sparty runs them out, and Georgia wins straight up. Bama was bet up to 5.5.
Yeah, there was all the money without Yante Mateen for Georgia. I'm botching his name. I always do that. I apologize. But all the money on Bama, Georgia without their star, and that was a gritty win. Give the Bulldogs credit for that. As for Sparty, that wipeout at Purdue on Saturday, it was all about the Boilermakers making a statement at home that they deserve to be among the top 4 seeds. Remember last week, the Big Ten got shut out of the top 16 teams in the country, and then the markets, I think, read that result wrong with all the Nebraska money. They said Sparty's bad. No, that was a statement game for Purdue. And then there was all the Tim Miles really wants to keep his job at Nebraska talk. But Sparty went up they had a big run before halftime. Went up from a 3-point lead to an 18-point lead. And the Huskers never made a run in the second half. Not what you want to see if you're Tim Miles and you want to keep that job.
Troubling loss for Wisconsin. Bet up from 5 to 7. Blown out by Ohio State.
Yeah, they were out of that game by halftime. Never made a serious run in the second half. Badgers, they did not playing their best basketball here in February. And all of a sudden, a team that has all that veteran talent, looks like that veteran talent is kind of tapped out a little bit.
Yep. San Diego was a bad bet, too. Gonzaga by 60. How about that?
And counting. The Zags, the number 1 team in the country, the number 1 ATS team in the country, and the markets continue to undervalue them. Although there was a ton of Zags money last night. They got bet, 22 up to 24.5. Didn't matter.
No, they can name their score right now. The league's so bad and they're so good, and it happens every night. One middle, bad for the books. Memphis bet up from 12.5 to 14. Lands 13. Bearcats up 24 before halftime. Memphis actually made a huge run and cut it to 6.
Yeah, and then since he pulled away the last 4 minutes to extend that lead, the last bucket, a Memphis layup with 44 seconds on the clock. Both teams crap out in their final possession. The game's lands 13. That is not a good result for the house. A middle.
This was horrible. Leicester City, 9 months ago, the biggest upset in sports history, 5,000-1 to win the EPL. They also just barely avoided relegation the year before. They're 1 point clear of relegation this year in the Premier League. 6 straight matches in the Premier League. They haven't scored a goal since December. They fired their manager, Teddy. What have you done for me lately?
That's all it is, man. What have you done? But we see this, again, I look at it from an NBA standpoint, even from an NFL standpoint. What you did last year, man, you see coaches win Coach of the Year awards and they're fired 6 months later. It happens all the time. But this guy took a 5,000-1 shot and made it cash. I think you give him more than 9 months after that, but who knows what's going on behind the scenes there. But you don't score a goal for 6 games. Obviously, you're going to attract some negative attention.
At what point do you blame the players and Vardy and that crew? Come on, guys. 9 months after he did the impossible, actually staving off elimination the year before, too, was very impressive as well. Up next, big game breakdown. Celtics and the Raptors on ESPN, and the showdown Saturday night on ESPN. UCLA and Arizona. Oscars with the deep dive, and let's make it 8 in a row on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Time for a big game breakdown. As always, live odds. SportsBookReview.com. 5 o'clock Pacific. Game 1 of a doubleheader on ESPN. Celtics hit the road to take on the Raptors. Toronto is 3. 215.5 the total. 37-20 against 33-24. Celtics open the final stretch with a 4-game lead in the Atlantic Division. They have not won a playoff series in the Brad Stevens era. They decided to stand pat, didn't make any moves. Danny Ainge is excited. Quote, "I'm excited actually, watching practice today. Very excited by what I saw. Not disappointed. Not at all," end quote. I buy that. I think he's right. They have a good team, and they can compete and give Cleveland a series if they match up in the Eastern Conference Finals. But tough assignment here against the Raptors. They have played 3 times. Celtics have lost 2 of the 3, and the only loss, the only win for the Celtics, DeRozan didn't play.
Yeah, and Toronto still covered the number in that game. Now, we look at Boston. They're going to get Avery Bradley back soon. And you say, all right, they stood pat at the deadline. I really think that was the right move for the Celtics to make. And when you're reading the quotes and comments from the people close to the organization around the league, you're kind of getting that same sense. That this team, they're not far. They have a ton of young talent. They've got a nice mesh with the veterans. And they're playing as good as Cleveland was heading into the All-Star break. No reason to think they're not going to come out of the break and play good basketball here. But we look at Toronto. They're the ones that stunk it up before the All-Star break. Now, a lot of that was the fact that Lowry and DeRozan, it felt like it was them against the entire world because the rest of the team struggled to step up, and then DeRozan got hurt, and there were all kinds of issues there. Now they got Serge Ibaka on the court, PJ Tucker on the way, and Tucker from Phoenix, a guy that, again, a little deal. No one pays a lot of attention to these type of deals. He's a guy who really could become a key role player. He defends well. He's a good rebounder, and he's one guy who doesn't need the ball, which is good because he's not going to get it from Lowry or DeRozan anyway. Patrick Patterson is expected to be back in the lineup for Toronto. They really missed him when he got hurt. While he was out was when the Raptors were really struggling.
Raptors, as we mentioned, 3-0 ATS, 2-1 straight up against the Celtics this year. Boston has not won in Toronto since 2015. The Celtics lost by 18 in their first game back off the break last year. They were +1 at Utah, and they lost straight up in ATS at Sacto the week before that. What do you think? You're a big Celtic guy. I think this is a tough matchup, though, for him because the Celtics, I believe, are 29th in the league in defensive rebounding.
Yeah, and, Boston, we like Boston in the road dog role. I don't love this matchup for the Celtics tonight. And while I think that Boston's going to come out of the break and do something good, and I continue to think that Boston is the team, Houston's live, or not Houston, Washington is live to make some noise in the playoffs if they play like they have over the last 2 months. And I think that Boston has more playoff upside than Toronto. For the purpose of this game, I'm not in any rush to take the Celtics here. It'd be Raptors or pass for me.
All right, game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. What a matchup showdown Saturday night, 5 o'clock Pacific, ESPN. UCLA at Arizona, projected line, Arizona 2.5, 161 the total. Number 5 in the country against number 4. First meeting, Arizona was +5.5 in Pauly. They won 96-85. 6 Arizona players in double digits. They shot 34 of 68. It was the first game back for Trier as well. Added toughness to 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 27 minutes off the bench. Look at this big defensive gap here, Teddy, as it favors Arizona big time.
Yeah, though you got to mention, it's not at Pauly. It's at Pauly Pavilion. If it's at Pauly, I thought people think it's at your house. It's just you wonder. I'm like, at Pauly? What are you talking about? But, of course, look at the graphic. And UCLA's defense has gotten a little bit better from where it was when they just couldn't stop anybody. We've seen signs from the Bruins over the course of the last couple of weeks. But certainly, the numbers show very clearly. Arizona, number 27 in the nation, number 2 in the Pac-12. UCLA, nowhere near those type of numbers. And when you talk about this point spread range, where we expect Arizona to be very short home favorites, and you talk about this type of a defensive disparity, that's not something you necessarily see every day. Although, I mean, UCLA can put the biscuit in the basket, man. While Alonzo Trier, who didn't do all that much in the first game, I shouldn't say all that much. He didn't light up the scoreboard, as he meant 12, 7, and 4. But Trier again, last night against USC with the big three-pointer to cover the first half bets for anyone that had Arizona in that ball game. He's a lot more acclimated into the rotation now than he was for that first meeting when Arizona beat the Bruins in LA.
I think they were very surprised that Arizona decided to run with them. That's number one. Number two, maybe the UCLA offense is so good they can get away with this and make a deep run in March. Because you look at effective field goal percentage the last 10 seasons, UCLA, this team, 61.3, 2007 Florida, 2014 Creighton, 59% and 58%. No one even close to the Bruins. Only team in the nation with 6 players in double digits, and they're shooting 53% for the season, 42% from 3.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, again, let's get that first graphic up there, okay? Season by season offensive efficiency leaders. Okay, UCLA number 2 over the last 10 years in terms of offensive efficiency. That's impressive. The effective field goal percentage. Again, we're talking about history-making performances from UCLA on the offensive end. 61.3%. That's insane. That's not even a real number. And the teams that are on these lists, Florida winning a national championship. The previous list, Wisconsin was a Final Four team, and Duke won a title, and Michigan went to the championship game, and on down the line. Duke won a title, and North Carolina won a title. These are teams that go on deep March runs when you have this type of offensive efficiency. What does it come down to? It's one guy. I mean, it's not one guy, but it's one guy. Lonzo Ball is special. 15.4 points per game. 7.6 assists, 6.1 rebounds. Oh, and he's got 50 steals as well. And the assist to turnover, how about this? 206 assists for the season versus only 69 turnovers. Sean Miller, after that first win, quote, "You earn respect through performance." And today, I'm sure we earn the respect of a lot of people because of how we played against a great team. And UCLA is a great team. I think they have a chance to win the whole thing. I really do. They're great on offense, for sure. What do you expect, Pauly? Another high-scoring game?
Yeah, but also the projected line, to me, it's low. I got to look at Arizona here. I just think they're the better team, and with the bigs down low, they're tough at home. And plus, you got UCLA, who just had the Thursday night game, too, in Tempe.
Yeah, well, I mean, Arizona played Thursday night as well in LA, so it's not a huge... Oh, you're right. Yes, you're absolutely right. But yeah, I mean, both teams play Thursday night, so from a freshness standpoint, I don't think there's a huge edge for one side or the other. And that UCLA team, again, if they play defense, sky's the limit. We haven't seen the defense consistently, but it has definitely gotten better over the course of the last couple of weeks, Pauly. Something to keep our eye on for this game on Saturday.
No, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait. And I can't wait for the Pac-12 tournament out here in Las Vegas as well with Arizona, UCLA, and Oregon. Don't forget Cal as well. Up next, the deep dive. Oscars, Sunday. We'll talk to a Hollywood insider, and we'll look to make it 8 in a row with the play of the day money time on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up, SportsBIT, Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Time for the deep dive. Oscars on Sunday. We had Spotlight last year, Best Picture, and there were some terrific movies last year with The Big Short, Revenant, and also Spotlight. I can't say the same this year. Oh, my God. All right, now Isaac Fetter is the Hollywood insider here. We know him well. What'd I say? Feeder, Jesus. Here, look at this shot. Walking the carpet with Teddy, Life on the Line movie premiere a couple years ago. Look at that suit. You steal that? Look at that thing.
I don't know where that suit went. I don't know if I've seen it since that night. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, you got to have a little glamour and glitz. And, You know what our lives are like, Paul. It feels glamorous maybe out there, but it's not. You sit at your desk and you're working all the time. So that was a really fun night. But he's someone who absolutely has his ear to the ground, both in the betting world and in Hollywood. And when I say inside info, this guy really does. He knows everybody. He talks to everyone. He didn't have time to do a Skype. So what did we do? I interviewed him. And I got some quotes from Isaac about the Oscars for today. Or for, I should say, on Sunday. So let's get to it. Let's flash the odds. Let's start. We got to start with Best Picture.
Well, first of all, about the value, I mean, these things are, a lot of these favorites are 1 to 10 and 1 to 9 for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Isaac's point is there's really not much value in these markets at all. The chalk is you want to be betting chalk, and the chalk is priced so high, where you're laying 10 to win 1 and you're laying 20 to win 1. It's like this. It's not a very friendly market for bettors right now. So Isaac's like, these are for entertainment purposes only. These are not back the truck up to the window and make a big bet type of wagers.
All right. Best Picture odds, La La Land, as high as $7. A couple months ago, $1.87 was available.
Yeah, easy come, easy go. But of course, the odds vary dramatically once the other voting things come in, and like the SAG Awards were the ones that everyone talk about. But let's start with this. When Isaac was making 1 point, he said, don't stand in front of the minus 1,000, minus 2,000 favorites. They're all going to win. That being said, when you talk about Best Picture, where La La Land has taken a ton of money, he said of all of the bigger favorites, this one is not a lock. The problem that he has, and the odds that we have here are listing everything individually. Okay, Hidden Figures won Best Picture in the SAG Awards. And the SAG voters have more members in the Academy than any other group. You're going to find that in the range now of plus 1,000. Isaac's not sure that Hidden Figures is going to be the one. What he's looking for, and he said there are definitely some books out there that have it, is La La Land versus Field, or La La Land and Moonlight versus Field. And you get a plus price on the Field, so that may be worth taking a shot on. La La Land has ridiculous number of Oscar nominations. They're going to win a bunch of awards. That doesn't mean they're going to win every award. And if they're going to lose one, Best Picture might be that. So his recommendation was Field for Best Picture. You can find a plus price.
Oh, excellent. All right, here's one of those prices he was talking about. Best Director, the La La Land director is high, about $2,000 in some spots, $9 in another spot, and in December was minus $225.
Sure, but again, December, I mean, these odds, I would take these odds with a grain of salt. We took them from an aggregate site that offers these type of numbers, and what they were, an accurate depiction of what they were 2 months ago I question those numbers a little bit. That being said, and of course the limits 2 months ago were non-existent, very, very small. Not that they're huge now, but you say, oh, I missed the best of the number with La La Land. Yeah, you definitely missed the best of the number with La La Land, but Isaac made it very clear. The minus 2,000s, they're all going to win. And laying 20 to win one, it's bridge jumper type material if they don't.
All right, Best Actor. Look at this. Casey Affleck, Manchester by the Sea. One spot has him $5, the other spot has him $175, and there's Denzel Washington with the plus price.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this when it comes to play of the daytime, but let's talk about Casey Affleck here for a minute because, again, this is all buzz. This is all the insider information that I get from my good source, and basically what he said, Affleck may not be the most popular guy in Hollywood. And this is something of a popularity contest. If they don't like him, he's not necessarily going to get votes. So he said, Affleck, of all the chalk, Affleck's the weakest, and the odds reflect that. He said Denzel is live at the plus price. It's not a big plus price, but Denzel is live to win the Best Actor this year with, what movie was he in? I don't even know. I didn't even see it. That's the beauty of it. I didn't even go see the movie, but Fences, yeah. All right.
There you go. Ringing endorsement from Teddy Covers. Best Actress, Emma Stone or Natalie Portman?
And he said Portman might be live at plus 400, but he expects Emma to win. He's like La La Land is the pick this year, and Emma Stone is the pick from La La Land. So those are the only two he thought were live. He didn't think there were any legitimate long shots that were live for Best Actress. Portman or Stone, with Stone legitimately being the significant favorite.
All right, let's go. Haven't lost in 2 weeks. Money time. Play of the day. Let's make it 8 in a row. Back to the Oscars. Teddy, where are we going?
Yeah. We got to go with the dog, though. You know, we got to go with Denzel. Denzel Washington, Best Actor, plus 125. And again, this isn't a back the truck up and bet this for everything you got. This is a good tip from a guy that we know in Hollywood that is good with this type of information and understands betting markets. You said Denzel's the value play. Give me Denzel plus 125 to win Best Actor. That's our play of the day.
All right, excellent. Great week of shows. Thanks for being a part of the Google Hangout again every Thursday at 8 o'clock Pacific here on SBR. We are back next week. It'll be March, and we are ready right out of the gate. An interview you don't want to miss. The Deep Dive Monday and Tuesday, 2 parts with Steve Sear, top host in the country and subject of the book Whale Hunt in the Desert. He'll tell the stories, the demands of the whales who bet $50,000 a hand in blackjack, traveling all over the world. Talk about his book. It's going to be a great interview, and he'll have some ton of stories. Larry Flint stories, a guy he represents as well, at least helping him out. He's like the Jerry Maguire between the casinos and the player. He'll tell all those stories coming up, and of course, it's a huge week of sports as well, and we'll recap the Oscars. Right, Teddy?
Yeah, help me help you, Pauly. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday.